Good evening and welcome. Welcome to the Shill Nation. Tonight, we invite you to join us as we interview Captain Jax from Paranormal Underworld. And we get to know a little bit more about the man behind the channel, behind the scenes, the guy that you see constantly here in our discussions over at the. Oh, Jesus. I'm sorry. I'm the guilty one. There we go. I got caught with my volume on. Look at that. How amateur like. Wow. Slap on my wrist. See, that's what happens when I don't have my tech guy, Vern, here. Unfortunately, Vern's a little under the weather. We hope and wish him well and everything. Hope you feel better soon, buddy, and talk to you then. With that being said, yes, tonight's interview is with Captain Jax of Paranormal Underworld and ECCPI, which is East Coast Coalition of Paranormal Investigators. That's a team that he co-founded, and we'll get a little bit more into that later in the show. That being said, Captain Jax, why don't you go ahead and say hi to everybody and just give them a, quick let know where they could find you, and we'll go ahead and take it from there.
Hi everyone, my name is Jax. I have a channel on YouTube. It's called Paranormal Underworld. I also have a paranormal team, as Sergeant has just said, East Coast Coalition of Paranormal Investigators. You can find that on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook at hashtag ECCPI.
Good deal, man. And when you do go check him out, please be sure to watch his content. Give him a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe and set those notifications so you don't miss any of his up and coming content. As we'll get into further here, he as well on his channel holds open discussions and everything, basically anything that encompasses the paranormal. So it's always a great time. I encourage you all to visit there and catch us live when you can, you know what I mean, or even on the rerun. And I myself participate in his live, so I'm over there, and we all have a good time. So listen, Captain Jax, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with, I guess, the most simple and basic of questions. I'll throw it at you. So how long have you held an interest in the paranormal?
I've had an interest in the paranormal going back a long time, actually. It's since I've been 9 years old. Back in 1975, actually. Now I'm dating myself, but that's okay.
Back in 75, huh? I remember those years.
I was actually watching one of my favorite TV shows at the time, In Search of Leonard Nimoy.
Oh.
So that's how I initially got started, or had an interest in it, I should say.
So back in 75, the show from Leonard Nimoy was basically the catalyst for you to get started into that, like that interest. What did you do? Like at school, go and check out every little ghost book or haunted house book or anything that you would have in a library? Because I remember back then in school, those type of books were available in our school libraries. I don't know if that was the same for you, but even at that, we would go to our city library or what have you, and have a good time researching it. It would always be a little group of friends that, kind of had the same interests and everything. Was that something similar to your experience growing up?
I tell you the truth, to be perfectly honest with you, I had not picked up any books or anything else. I was just fascinated with the unknown, period. Because of that TV show, it started clicking into my imagination. Wow, that stuff is really cool. So it just took off from there.
So and it was that, or how did you go ahead and, like, I don't know, how would I put it, pursue your interest at such an early age? Like, did you conduct your own type of research? Did you experiment with things that you thought would, I don't know, maybe help you find evidence that you were already interested in trying to obtain?
Tell you the truth, no. I have not. The only thing that I can keep saying is that basically is anything that was strange and the unusual into from a very, very young age. Like I said, 9 years old. And that's quite a long time, you know, to be interested in stuff like that. And it's, you know, paranormal, it doesn't matter. UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids.
How did you get your information though at that age? Like, and say on and early to your teens, like what were your, I guess, sources or databases to you know, to continue informing yourself and pursuing that interest of yours?
Just from watching, you know, TV shows, different TV shows. Another TV show I used to watch was forget the name of it. Kolchak, the Night Stalker, Darren McGavin.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with
That was my second. Well, back and forth, 1A, 1B, no, in no necessary order. My two favorite shows. You know, and of course watching Star Trek, the original series. You know, it's just science fiction slash horror fan.
So
You know, it
basically,
just
anything you get your eyes and ears on that was available back in those days. Don't forget, for those who don't know, there was no internet way back then, wasn't there?
no. As a matter of fact, it was kind of hard because at the time there was no public library that I could just walk to miles away. So it's you know, that's all I had was the boob tube, so to speak. But you know, it's all good. It all worked out.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Now, let me ask you, when was it that you decided to pursue the interest to that next level, to actually like conduct investigations, active investigations? What was it? When was it that you decided to pursue that, and what was it that made you make that, you know, that step, say, into the rabbit hole, you know, of all things paranormal?
Well, the thing is that everyone thinks that okay, in the world of the paranormal, there was a TV show that started I'd say about 16 years ago, Ghost Hunters. A lot of people think that that was the granddaddy that started it all,
Yeah.
and it actually wasn't.
Okay.
There was a show that was on before that that was called Scariest Places on Earth.
Can you repeat that again?
Scariest Places on Earth.
Okay. I'm vaguely familiar with the title. Honestly couldn't recall an episode, but I do recall the title.
It starred Linda Blair. She was the host of the show.
Okay.
And they would have families submit an application online of up to 5 people, and they would come on the show, and they would send them all across the world to different locations, and they would investigate for several hours, make it through the night or not make it through the night. That was you could do one of the two, obviously. Most families failed because they got too scared. And I was sitting there watching that show one night, and I decided right then and there, this is what I want to do. I want to be a paranormal investigator. I want to go hunting. Well, not so much hunting. I that's a bad term. Investigating.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All things in the paranormal.
So it was that was the actual catalyst that said, all right, I'm going to, you know, invest in this. I'm going to pursue it. I'm going to learn different ways to engage, you know, the potential of spirits or what have you, you know, find out the answers to the things that are paranormal.
Yes.
That's great, man.
Yes.
That's really interesting. You see, this is really an opportune time for people, you know what I mean, to learn a little bit more about, you know, the man behind the guy, you know, like he's here, like I said in the beginning, every night, you know, grinding away with me, and then we're grinding over at his channel as well. And, you know, now you're going to, you know, get to learn a little bit more about the person behind it. You know what I mean? It's one thing when you engage in the discussions and everything, people usually can, you know, feel somebody out and, you know, befriend them or what have you, and everything, and it's great. The relationship I've been able to build with Captain JAX over the recent months has been phenomenal, and I think it's showing and it's paying off. But enough about that. Let's go now. This interest into the paranormal and all things basically that involve it, is this I don't know, is this something that you were exposed to when you were younger, other than say from the television and such like this? Like, was this something that was like an interest into this type of into this area, for lack of a better term? Was that something that was shared throughout your family, or were you unique in that clause? You know what I mean? Like, were you the only one in your family that would be into that? And they'd be like, oh, Jax, he's into things paranormal or what have you. Now, or is that something that was an interest that was shared, with other family members as well growing up, and in adulthood as well?
I'm sorry, what was the last?
And into your adulthood, obviously, as well. Families forever. So, but like, is that an interest that was shared by other members of your family as well?
That was not shared. That was just strictly my choice. Growing up, my parents didn't, consider me being weird or anything like that. So it's all good. My
your
sister,
audio, Captain JAX, your audio totally has been cutting in and out since the beginning of that. I apologize, people. We've identified the problem and ordered another cable for Captain JAX, so bear with us. That bug will be rectified, I would imagine, if Amazon keep to their commitment. That'll be on a Monday.
Is it any better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better. Yeah, a little clearer. Now, we were saying, like, the interest, if it was shared something throughout, it was an interest that was shared with other family members, is like something that you were exposed to throughout your teen years, your adolescence, and into, adulthood, and maybe even continues today.
Yeah, it's always continued, but it hasn't. I never had the opportunity to share my interests with any part of my family.
Okay, so
not that they were not interested, or they weren't calling me weird or anything like that. It's just that it was something that I did, and I wanted to watch, or I wanted to, So that's
they tolerated and like maybe indirectly supported that interest of yours.
Well, I wouldn't say they accepted it. They didn't support it.
Oh no, okay. They weren't supportive of it. Okay.
Well, they didn't say, "Oh, it's okay, you can watch this or you can watch that or whatever."
Yeah.
They would. It was just, if something was on, I just turned on the TV and I watched the program.
Let it ride. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes complete sense. Let me ask you this. These are very like general questions, you know what I mean? But people would probably want to know this. How old were you when you had your first paranormal experience? Your first, like, where you knew, wow, this is a legit experience that I've just had, or you knew that without a doubt this was a paranormal experience.
I was about my first paranormal experience. I was about 34 years old.
Okay. Wow.
So it wasn't until much later in life that I actually had an experience.
Now, was this an experience that you encountered by yourself, or were you like doing an investigation at that time, or was it an event totally not related to either the team or anything that you were actually actively searching for, and it just occurred? What kind, if you don't mind, can you expand on the experience that you had?
Well, my wife and I, we were living in this little apartment. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, and she had noticed something, and she told me about it, and she said, "Are you seeing shadows going across the wall?" And I said, "No, why?" And she goes, "Because the shadows going across the wall." I'm like, okay. She goes, you know the wall right there in the kitchen? I said, yeah. She said, keep an eye on it. There's shadows going back and forth on that wall. So I kind of tuned into it a little bit. And sure enough, I started looking out the corner of my eye. And then I would actually turn my head to look at it. And she was right. There was shadows going across that wall. It was kind of like I have my light for this live stream right here.
Okay.
Okay. And so say this wall was the kitchen wall, the far wall, the furthest away from the light. The light is sitting on the kitchen table. The shadow go across the wall like it was leaving, and then it would come back. And then 10 minutes later, it would leave again. And then 20 minutes later, it would come back. It was almost like it was visiting. Well, obviously it was visiting, but like a human being coming into the house.
Now, let me
Which at
ask you.
that point,
Oh, sorry. Go
sure,
ahead.
go
I
ahead.
thought
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. I thought you were at a pause point. Continue, please.
So, which I had a theory that I started living there with my wife. I had an ex-girlfriend that moved into that same apartment building, and she lived right across the hall from us. And she had died, not at the house, but she had died.
Incredible.
And I had a theory that maybe, possibly, that could have been her.
What was it that spawned that theory? Was there any particular, was it like a gut instinct? Was it something that you discovered? What was it that made you believe this?
Well, after experiencing seeing the shadows, I was up getting a drink, and I went back to go sit down next to my wife as we were watching TV on the couch. As just about as I'm just inches away from the couch to sit down, I thought my wife had pinched my behind.
Oh, lucky you.
So I stood up. And I looked at her. I said, "Did you just pinch my butt?" And she goes, "No." "You just didn't touch me." She said, "No." And that's when I knew that it had to have been my ex-girlfriend.
So that's when you were that was you that was the first time you were convinced of actually having a true paranormal experience, like you knew without a doubt that that was the cause.
Yes.
That's incredible. That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. That's pretty intense. Did you have just a little bit, let's dig a little bit deeper. Did you have any further occurrences that you believe that was associated to the same cause as this one?
Well, we moved out of that apartment and moved into, my wife was pregnant with my daughter. And while she was in the hospital, I put down cash on another apartment, a bigger apartment. And while she was in the hospital, she left one house and was going to come home to another.
Oh my God, that's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that.
So, well, she didn't feel comfortable with it because she was used to the other house, but this one was much better and it was bigger. Her house, you know what I mean? So it all worked out in the end. But as we were getting ready to, we were thinking about moving into a bigger place after that place. This is like maybe 4 years of living at the new place. I started falling asleep on the couch.
Oh,
And my wife and my stepdaughters kept seeing a full-bodied apparition of an old man wearing Victorian clothing with the big, huge beard, with the Coke eyeglasses, and wearing a top hat, but he was hunched over.
okay,
In
like a
addition,
hunchback. Yeah.
in addition to that, they also saw a woman with blonde hair, wearing a white dress. And they also saw a little boy or a little girl about, I'd say about 3 years old, 4 years old, with blonde curly hair, shoulder length, peeking around the corner. Now, what's interesting about this is that the corner was right next to the couch where my head was. So it would be not even about a foot from the couch, that corner. So I'm sound asleep, and this apparition is peering around the corner to see what my wife and my stepdaughter were doing in the kitchen.
That is something.
Now, I didn't believe them at first, but then when we were moving out of there, I had 2 friends of mine helping me, and we were just finishing up, just mopping the floors and cleaning, just regular cleaning, just the respectful thing to do.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
All of a sudden, with my own ears, I started hearing. It just went.
Was that
and I'm like
a sharp exhale?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I said to anyone else, I said, "Can anyone hear that?" And they both said no. And then I heard it again. I said, "You guys can't hear that." And they said no. And then I heard it again. And then one of them finally stepped up and said, "I heard it that time." Again. And I'm like, I'm looking at him. He goes, "I heard that." But the other guy still couldn't hear it. He couldn't tune into it for some reason.
Maybe it was at a frequency
So
that maybe he just couldn't pick up or what have you. But 2 people that are hearing it, that's that's not only that's the the first witness and a collaborating witness as well, right? So
yeah. I mean, and then I find out afterwards that somewhere on that street, and I believe it was that house, was a funeral home.
Currently there or previously there?
No, previously there, way back in the day. And I believe it was that house only because right next door was a nursing home.
Wow.
So you have a nursing home.
The golden combo, really, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You had a nursing home and you had a funeral parlor side by side. That's my theory. But like I said, I got the book. I got the history of my town. There was 2 volumes, and one of them had talked about a funeral home on that street, but it didn't give it an exact address. So I'm starting to put 2 and 2 together. Well, if this place is haunted, next door it used to be a nursing home. This has to be the funeral home.
That's kind of a spooky coincidence. It would sort of support everything that you experienced, I would imagine, right? 1 and 1 makes 2 sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Remember that.
Sometimes, yeah.
So would you, I don't know if this leads in response to the next question or maybe answers this next question, but we'll go ahead and ask it anyway. Why don't you go ahead and share with us what to you would be considered the most, say, powerful or intense experience that you've encountered throughout, say, even your interest into the paranormal, leading right up to, say, current day with investigations and such. What for you would be considered the most intense experience that you've had?
Okay, most paranormal, I would have to say, would be when I was on location in town here, and we were in this field. We had a group of 4 individuals that were thinking about joining the team, and we were giving them a trial run, kind of like a dry run. And one of them ended up collapsing. And after she collapsed, we caught on an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, on the digital recorder. And the thing is that we think that this person was possessed by a princess that was Native American. And the only reason why we started thinking that is because on the opposite side of the field is an ancient Indian burial ground that's federally protected. And we ended up coming up with another theory, thinking that maybe like a shaman or something, you know, that powerful was holding her there against her will. That's what we could come up with. You know, again, this is just a theory of ours because, you know, she said, "Help me." And it wasn't English, but remember at that time, they were, the Native Americans were being associated with, AKA the Pilgrims.
Yeah, basically open
And
targets.
right, and I live like literally 2 towns away from Plymouth, Massachusetts, where the Pilgrims landed. So that was the whole reason behind that theory that she was being captive. And they ended up taking her to the hospital. So the rest of the team, the main team, ended up going back into this field. And as we got to the edge of the field, the founder of that team said, because we all stopped at the same time. No walked any further. No one stopped. We all walking in a straight line, straight across, and we all stopped. And we paused there and just looking into the field. And then the founder of that team said, "Does anyone get the feeling like don't go any further, to stop here?" And all 4 of us said, all the rest of us said, "Yes, we feel that." And no sooner did we said that, we're looking into the field, and you can see walking through the 5-foot brush that's there, the tall weeds and grass, you could see 2 dark shadows going through the grass, going like this, coming towards us. So it would look, so from your point of view, it would look like this, but it would be separating as it's going by. Okay, and then kind of look like we were going to be flanked, like sneak up behind us.
Now, were these
So
opaque, real opaque, or did they have some transparency to them?
these were black,
Blacker
like
than black.
blacker than black.
Okay, I can get a mental picture of that.
Because even if you're in a room that's pitch dark,
You'd still be able to distinguish them.
eventually, yes, because your eyes get used to that darkness.
Mhm.
And then anything else that you see, if it's darker than that, you would be able to pick it up like that.
Okay.
And the thing is that right after that, we were discussing, you know, should we regroup? What should we do? Should we continue? Should we stop the investigation? Because at that point, we've already had 1 person go to the hospital. You know, we just experienced 2 shadows here. Is this, you know, should we continue? Is this the right thing to do? Things, we're playing it out and trying to discuss it. And then all of a sudden, I hear, "Jax, Jax." And the only thing I remember is turning around. And then that's when I realized I was in the middle of that field.
So you had just wandered off incoherently, basically, towards the middle of this field?
Yes. I have no recollection of going out into the middle of that field whatsoever. None.
No, that's incredible. That's incredible. Were you startled when you realized? What was your reaction once you realized that had happened to you?
Oh, I was like, I even said out loud, I went, "Oh, yeah." So I don't know. I don't know what happened that night. I have no idea.
No,
It was almost like I was not possessed. Well, I guess you could say possessed, but controlled into going out into that
Empathically?
field. I don't know if it was telepathically because I
No,
don't remember a thing. I don't.
you know,
I,
maybe with, you know, with you not being aware whatsoever, maybe it was an empathic impulse, you know, sort of like, you know, turn the, you know, the lights are on, but nobody's home. And you, next thing you know, you're where you were. Is that maybe a possibility?
it could be, but like I said, I don't remember nothing. I remember nothing.
That's incredible. That's
Nothing.
incredible. Now, let me ask you, you're saying these shadows that came on like almost a flanking maneuver to you. Now, I hear shadows and such, and automatically I, you know, the first thought comes into mind is negativity, evil. Is Aren't shadow reportings of shadows or shadow men, shadow creatures, or what have you, typically associated with, say, the darker side of the paranormal?
In my experience, no. I think that it's. Where's the echo coming from? I hear an
I'm
echo.
not, yeah, I'm not getting any echo.
It's it's on my end for some reason. Okay, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, it's my experience from what I have gone through and what I've seen. Shadows are more typically associated with pretty much family members. I have not experienced any non-entity spirit whatsoever. It's all basically turned out. It's either Native American or it's a family member.
Now, is that to say that it just isn't something that does not happen? Like, because there is reports of a lot of like shadow and negativity and evil, or is it just something that is not as bad as people say report or claim for it to be? Like, say the numbers are inflated. You know, do you think it's like a fair balance across the board, or is there a certain, you know, advantage, you know, say to the neutrality and maybe like, and like you say, family member or something like that, versus it being an evil entity?
Well, here's the thing. I know an investigator who's had like 112. I think it's 112 that investigations under his belt, and he can
Regarding
come
shadow people?
up. Yes,
Incredible. That's a real high number there. Wow.
but the thing is that he's only experienced on one hand. He can count less than no, just on one hand how many investigations that had an inhuman entity or a dark shadow. I mean, dark shadow, meaning not right.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the ones that you had encountered during that flank movement, you didn't sense any negativity in that regard. Then you should believe that these were like, say, a neutral spirit, maybe a Native American spirit, maybe trying to ward you guys away from that area or something. What was your conclusion of that incident?
Well, we had realized that, of course, we didn't get this on video camera either because the four of us were all stunned. Because it works out that way. Um, we had a theory that because of what we saw and that grass being, 4 or 5 feet tall, and these shadows were 4 or 5 feet taller than that. So you're looking at a 9-foot shadow.
That's a substantially tall shadow, not the
And
average Native American Indian. That's for sure,
right.
especially back in those
So
times.
right. So there's one other piece that I forgot when we were walking through that field.
Okay.
See the grass separate as they're walking through.
Exactly. They caused displacement as they moved, correct?
Yes. So initially we thought that maybe, you know, Native American ancient, you know, area and ancient Indian burial ground. We figured maybe, you know, and where Sasquatch is associated most of the time with Native Americans, we thought maybe that we saw two Sasquatch ghosts. That was the
Incredible.
first theory we came up. That was the
That
first
wouldn't have even
theory.
entered my mind. That's amazing.
But
Is
then
there any history? I'm sorry. Is there any history of Sasquatch or a Bigfoot type creature in that general area?
there was, okay, back in the day, and I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but there was a war that was kicked off around here. It was called the King Philip's War. And King Philip wasn't actually King Philip. He was a Native American. And I can't remember the name off the top of my head for him either. It's a shame too, because I'm Native American. But what had happened was is that they went sorry, I just lost my thought for a second.
We all get brain farts.
What was what was your question again? I'm sorry.
What I was asking is that you had said that you believe there's a possibility that they were like a spirit of a Sasquatch or something, and I had asked, is there a history of the Sasquatch or a Bigfoot type creature in that area?
Okay. All right. Yeah. So okay, I know where I'm going now. All right. I'm sorry. Somehow, some way that I don't know how it happened, but after the war, King Philip had his hand chopped off.
Sounds like a good time.
And I don't know if it was after he was slaughtered. I would think that would have to be, I could be totally 1000% wrong, but I think it was done after he died.
They probably did it while he was alive. You're talking about Native Americans killed him?
No, the settlers.
Yeah, they probably definitely probably chopped it off, but that's just speculation. I don't know the story, so please go ahead.
So what happened was is that they somehow, some way, that hand was saved throughout the centuries and ended up in Lakeville, Massachusetts Historical Society, being locked upstairs, and a report was sent out saying that it was Bigfoot's hand. Now, whether if it actually really was King Philip, because that article came out saying it was Bigfoot's hand that was found.
So there's possibly a history of that type of creature in that region. Then
Correct. And the thing is that right after after we wrapped up that case, I stumbled upon an article that was dated for 1923 that the archaeologist here in town and the historian had discovered a grave of an 8.5 foot, 9 foot giant.
incredible. Is that like that was reported locally and in town records and such?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Wow, that's really interesting.
So then we threw out the Sasquatch theory and started going with the theory of maybe it was these giants. You hear reports of these giants all over the place, how they lived long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, and
Could
and that was globally as well too. If you look back far enough, there's always some ancient record or some alleged ancient find that supports that as well. That they were a global civilization. from what I've
Yes.
seen.
Mhm.
Well, that's interesting. All right, guys, listen, we're going to change a little bit of the pace here. And Captain Jax, let me ask you, why don't you share with the people that are watching and the people that will be watching, say, in the replay, share with us some of the equipment typically used for a paranormal investigation. Maybe explain, the names, the terminology of them, their purpose, and just give us maybe a quick breakdown of the equipment you would typically bring on say, a paranormal investigation with your team or maybe solo.
Sure, I sure can. We use a Night Owl 8-channel 4-camera DVR system. It's basically just a regular security system for your house. That particular system, there is no audio embedded with the cameras in the cameras, so it's strictly just video, which kind of stinks, but do. We use digital recorders, so we could use catch EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon. So when we do an EVP session, questions, if there's any answers that come through that we can't hear with our own ears, we can pick up on the digital recorder.
So that's the electrical voice phenomenon, right? EVP?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Then we also use an EMF pump, which is
EMF pump.
yes, which is a electronic magnetic field. It generates its own field, very similar to high tension wires, that in theory that apparitions can use, or spirits can use that so they can gain enough energy to manifest. Then we also use a millimeter that can generate, or not generate, that can detect magnetic field.
To see if
And
there's
there's
one
a lot
occurring naturally. Is that the purpose behind that?
that, see, there's, you can use that device. You could pick up, first of all, it's an electrician's device. That's what it was built for. Okay, and that's to help with the high EMF in and around the house. Like if it's in the house, high EMF, that could be generated from around your TV, around your refrigerator, around your microwave,
I
around
believe
your,
in the profession they refer to that as leakage, correct? Like I guess
yes,
an electrician profession, that's leakage. Yeah,
yes. I mean, that stuff can be extremely dangerous. The only way to get it fixed is to call an electrician.
sounds legit to me.
If you don't and you continue, if you're exposed to for long enough, you start get the feeling of you being watched. You start feeling, nausea coming on. Some people get scratched by it.
So basically, what you're
Um,
saying is like high exposure to this electromagnetic field over time can cause symptoms that people blame on, that can be blamed on, say, a paranormal activity, when it's really just that exposure to that field where they have these hallucinations or have these reactions such as you described, if I understand correctly.
yes, if being exposed for that long of a period of time, there's even people that can actually die from it if exposed too long. Now, there's been a lot of criticism about the millimeter, that humans give off EMF. that couldn't be any further from the truth.
Okay.
Humans do not give off high EMF. If a person were to give off that much energy to set a millimeter off, they're either going to die or they're going to die real soon because they're going to come down with cancer.
So it's a highly like carcinogenic or maybe almost like radioactive, border radioactive type of energy. Then in mass concentration, it has similar manifestations of side effects.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And some people have houses under, high tension wires, and they actually have to leave their homes. They actually have to move out of their homes because they can't handle the high EMF coming from those high tension cables.
I've heard of reports of that, and there's been studies on it and such. I'm aware of that. It's a problem that's ongoing too for a lot of these people who just can't get away from that property, and they're kind of stuck there. It's a shame, really. But please go on. So, so you're on the, I believe, the third piece of equipment that you would typically take with you.
Yes, and some people, like with the EMF pump, some people can be hypersensitive to it. I know a gentleman that at the time we were on the same team together, and we turned on the EMF pump just to test it. We had just gotten it in, and as soon as we turned it on, he grabbed his stomach and fell down on the floor in pain.
That's a very quick and violent reaction to an electromagnetic field.
So we had to immediately shut it off, and it took him like a good 15 minutes to stop feeling better completely. It's very dangerous stuff. What else do we use? We use motion detectors.
Okay. Is that in the, excuse me, in the IR spectrum, I would imagine?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
We set those around the baseboard, around the hot spots where the client tells us where most of the hot spots are, and we'll put motion detectors down around that general area.
Now, these
And
hotspots, these are identified to you guys by the clients, or is this something that you actively search for yourself and find what you believe to be like maybe? Because I know there's talks of vortexes and such, and people have gizmos to detect certain things. Is that something that you guys select as a hotspot, or is it typically what the client says, like where the majority say manifestations or the activity, whatever it may be, occur?
we go based on what the client tells us.
Okay.
We go in and with
Exactly. No, that's perfect. It makes perfect sense.
so if a client says, there's a hot, there's more activity in this room than in that room, then that's the first room is where we're going to set up.
You're gonna place the concentration of your effort there. Yeah.
Right.
No, makes perfect
Right.
sense. Makes perfect sense. Is there any other
So,
pieces of equipment that you find imperative, like to be a well-rounded investigation? To basically cover all your angles as best you can.
well, there is another piece that we use, the PS 7B. It's like it's like a spirit box, but it
Okay.
doesn't use like the Frank box. It actually uses radio frequencies,
Okay.
but it breaks them up. It just scans them real quick. But a lot of times there could be words bled through from the radio, which I particularly don't like that. So they came out with the SB7s, which was a shorter range of frequency, and it would scan it quicker, so you wouldn't have the words bleeding through. It's better, and we've had some good responses on that. But my favorite, as far as that goes, is the Ovilus. Now, the Ovilus has a database inside
of words, right? That's where I was
of
exactly
words.
going. Yes. Please, yeah, explain to the people the obelisk. This is, I guess, the latest and greatest in the paranormal hunting field, isn't it?
Yes. Well, it's been around for a few years. I would say about 5-7 years, maybe a little longer.
Okay.
But and this is why it's my favorite, because there's no way that any radio frequencies can manipulate that or whatever have you. It's a database that's actually built inside of that little box that, in theory, that spirits are capable of manipulating that database to form words.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a perfect description of it. That's yeah, that's exactly what it is, folks. It allows, it's a quite a broad database too, from my understanding, and it allows for them to basically select the words from the database. And if they can't select the actual word, it actually, there's words that are very close in proximity that are very similar, so it allows it to, you know, at least grasp at something, I guess, that's relative to the alleged message that they're trying to send, if I understand the idea and the mechanics behind it.
You're correct, Sergeant. Yeah, so what that's my favorite piece. Out of all the spirit boxes that are out there.
Doesn't it have like a speak and
Always
spell
gonna be.
type feature too, where it'll say the words like out, like "I am dead," you know, type of deal? Like it has an audio option on it, I guess, to read the words out.
Yes, yes, it
Yeah,
does.
yeah. Haunted speak and spell. You remember those old speak and spells when we were kids?
You
And
know,
orange there.
it's funny you bring that up, because there are people that do investigate that actually use those.
Yeah, yeah. That's in part the reason I brought it up, because I knew that was something that I've seen some videos and such where they've used one and everything, and it's kind of spooky because it's, you know, still in the it still has the look of a child's toy. So, you know, I get this picture of, you know, say I have a
Yes.
young child with this toy, you know, alone in his bedroom, and it starts talking to my child. You know what I mean? Oh my goodness, you know, that'd be I'd be calling you over. That's for sure. That is for sure. So does that pretty much round up like the basic equipment you'd bring on, like say the initial investigation, the initial maybe you know, investigation night or whatever, and then you could judge from there if you need to revisit the case and bring additional equipment at that point to, you know, say broaden the capabilities of the search, and in the hopes of gathering even more evidence than say you gathered that first night? Is there anything like in addition, like would be like, I don't know, the Cadillac of Cadillacs to have if it was financially feasible for the person that's trying to get into this, or the group? Because let's be honest, the equipment that's specialized for paranormal investigation is not cheap, although there is plenty of videos out there that show people how to make their own equipment, you know, for, you know, pennies on the dollar, really, if you were to buy it, say, at the retail level. Is that not correct, Jax?
That is correct, but me personally, I wouldn't recommend doing that. Like with a digital camera, if you take if you open it up and take the lens off, if you touch, there's something in there, and I forget what it's called, but if you touch that,
Yeah, yeah. But that's
so you're
just
gonna
like
be
one of
very,
the, yeah, just one of
yeah.
the tweaks or like whatever. That,
Personally, if
yeah,
someone wants to get into the paranormal field, first of all, don't go it alone.
yeah.
Always
That
have
makes
somebody
sense.
go. Always go have someone with you.
Have a
If you want to
battle
get
buddy.
into,
For all you former military, you know what I'm saying. Where's your battle buddy? Always have a battle
if
buddy in
you
the
want to
paranormal world.
this, you can start off just by having, those little micro, um, tape recorders.
Digital recorders, yeah.
You could use one of those.
Yeah, and they're relatively inexpensive on Amazon too.
You can start just using those. Get yourself a digital camera.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The next question I was going to this question had led into, I was going to ask you maybe sharing some of the equipment that would typically be essential for, like, say, the novice, like a basic startup kit. What would you recommend as a basic startup kit? Low budget, just want to get in there, see if they got a taste for it for real, maybe, still have the capabilities of capturing something, but real low entry, say maybe a startup kit that would not exceed, $100, maybe $200 or something, in your opinion, a little,
I believe that there's a startup kit, a ghost hunter startup kit. I don't like the word ghost hunter. Paranormal investigator sounds so much professional.
But it's about marketing.
Okay. Well, ghost hunters just sounds like, I don't know, like
they're probably going for the young demographic, though, Captain JAX.
Yeah,
that's probably what it is.
So
us old fossils there, everything's young guys now.
But I'm pretty sure I was looking at it tonight, and I think it was eBay. There is a Ghost Hunters kit that has a millimeter, a K2 meter, which is basically an EMF detector, except on a smaller scale. It's got lights that go across, and it goes from green to red. Red meaning that you're getting, it's buried from high EMF, and the green is, all the way down is dead. I don't particularly use that for EMF. I use that as a communication device. Now, we just got it in. We haven't had a chance to test that ourselves, but I have seen other people use it to communicate, where if they ask questions, they can answer yes or no by making that light go up once for no and two for yes. So that kit comes with that. It also comes with an SB7, a PSB7
spirit box.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you can get that whole kit for, I think, if I remember correctly, it was just a short time ago. I think it was $25.
Wow, and it sounds pretty well rounded, especially for the entry level participant in it.
Yes. Well, it's I don't think you're going to get much cheaper than that. I think that's the bottom price. You might be able to find it cheaper, but that's the cheapest that I found tonight.
But there are available, basic starter kits out there, maybe even on Amazon. Check it out. It's up to you guys. We just talk. But if it is something that interests you, there are basic startup kits up there available, and nothing that maybe a little bit of research, or you could even reach out to Captain JAX on his channel, and I'm sure he'd spend a little bit of time with you going over what you would need to get started and everything like that. I know he's he's very passionate about this field and the paranormal, and he, I'm sure, would love to entertain the teaching somebody, or or giving them a pointer here and there. It's all about exchanging of ideas. So, like I said, if you have any questions, in regards to anything on this show, that's we've already talked about, or it's about to come, or something we haven't covered, don't be afraid to reach out to Paranormal Underworld's channel, and or even on the Sergeant Shield channel. There's an email in the About section, and ask a question or whatever. I'll make sure Captain JAX gets it, and he'll reply. I can promise you that. I can promise you that. That's the type of person he is. With that being said, why don't we talk a little bit about the team that you had co-founded, East Coast Coalition of Paranormal Investigators?
Yes.
I know you're very passionate about that team, so here you go. Time to toot your horns.
Yeah, when me and another gentleman, we were on a team together, and that team disbanded, and it had been several months, almost a year to be exact, that this gentleman out of nowhere hit me up and said, "I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." He goes, "Can we do a live stream?" Oh, not a live stream, but just like a video chat. I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So I called him, and he proceeded to go down and say how upset he was with the way that things were handled on the other team, and he was thinking about doing, forming another team. And I told him that was great, and I congratulated him on it. And he said, "No, no, no, you don't understand." He said, "Would you be interested in helping me?" And I looked at him and I said, "You want me to be co-founders with you?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Dude, I'd love to." And that was this past September, and we got everything all hooked up and ready to go. We got a website up. We got a Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel. We just got done doing our first investigation on back in November. So things are looking up,
Must have been quite
and we
a
couldn't be
must have been quite a surprise to finally link up with somebody that took it as seriously as you did, and wanted to invest both that time and energy to build a team that will be successful.
correct. I mean, the former team that we were both on, that team, and I swear to all that is holy, there is not one, that former team of ours, there was not one single team that I wouldn't put that team against in this whole entire world.
So you guys
That
were a
team,
real tight knit and really efficient, worked well together and everything.
yes. Not only that, but if we had put out evidence to say this is what it is, that's what it is.
Okay.
We don't we The team that I have now is 1,000 times better than the former team.
Winning, winning,
We're better.
you're winning.
We're,
Just like
yes.
Charlie Sheen, you're winning. That's what he's doing.
Yes.
He's winning. We're all winning. I'm just teasing, but
This
that's
this
great, man.
team this team um between the top 4 people that are on this team, me, um Dave, Tammy, and Chris, between the 4 of us, we have 46 years of experience.
That's quite an accumulation of experience between the three of you. You said
There's 4,
four.
including
Okay,
myself.
so then that's an average of 12 per person, really, when you break it down. Then
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, but it's we don't we don't go fooling around and everything. We're not trying to make look anybody, look dumb or anything like that, We go there, and when we go onto an investigation, we try to find natural phenomena for what's going on. We try
exactly,
to debunk
yeah,
everything. If you don't do an investigation and have a critical mind on what things could possibly be going on, then there's no sense of doing it. We're not
exactly.
into producing fraud, anything,
If you
or
go in with that
to
bias too, correct?
yes,
Yeah,
yes. There's always something that always got to keep that in the back of your head that, okay, maybe this person got electrical problems in his house, or maybe it's, you know, something else that's going on, you know, and we go there and we try to help the client the best we can.
Disprove all the possible solutions before looking at the impossible.
Right.
Sound about right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, listen, let me ask you, why don't could you tell us, for those that may be interested, what kind of cost and or fees would typically be incurred by those wishing like to secure your team services?
They can actually, we have set up our website that if they want to request an investigation, they may do so by clicking on the button that says request an investigation, fill out the application, and hit submit. And it will go right to the email, and we'll look at it, and we'll call the client within 24 hours.
That's great. Now, let's talk about costs.
We
Tell the
at
people. Let them know.
we at ECCPI, we do not charge for our services.
Did
It
you
is
hear that?
100% free.
Did you hear that out there? 100% free. It's 2017. It ain't 1986. It ain't 1976. It's 2017, and it's free. All you got to do is reach out. If you're in that region, why not? You got nothing to lose. Maybe you'll learn something.
So that's we don't feel open up their homes to perfect strangers. Okay, and that's we, not only us, but we realize that there's a lot of other people that know that this is a real problem for people. And we're in the business of helping people. That's our number one priority, is to help people.
Hey,
Number two, the other is that we want to prove either way without a shadow of a doubt, is there life after death?
you all want the answers yourselves, right?
Well, we just want to prove it to the field and to the world too. It's not just
Absolutely.
ourselves.
No, but I mean, it's that drive that perpetuates you guys to go to these investigations and look for those answers, to actively, you know what I mean? Like, let's try and see if we could find something.
Right. Right. And there was a third point I wanted to bring up. Slipped my mind.
So, well, we ain't getting younger. We excuse the delay. There was a bad accident just out in front of where I live, and I ran out to go give aid and everything. So we were delayed for a little bit, but that's, being able to help people, Jax, like, with me running out there earlier, with you going and helping these people for free, and you know what I mean? Because first of all, these people are probably, under so much stress and anxiety from experiencing these events, especially if they've reached the point where they're going to reach out to say a paranormal investigation team, and the stigma that goes with it, like, what are the Joneses going to think? Or, we can't tell, the family about this, almost like a shame they feel because they're feeling that they're experiencing something, and now they're reaching out to a paranormal investigation team, to be able to do that and be willing to take that time and energy to put it in, alone, for me at least, speaks volumes to the character of the team. I'd much rather a team that's like this than one that's, purely out. I understand there's operation costs, there's, a lot of things involved and everything like this. But I don't know. I think when you're not looking for that monetary or material satisfaction, but the satisfaction of, getting the answers themselves, I think the value of that far outweighs, the any potential monies or what have you made from, a possible investigation.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, on top of that, we don't charge our clients for any monies whatsoever. all the equipment costs come out of our own pockets.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, like I said, that alone to me speaks volumes, shows the commitment. I'd rather have somebody who has a
Yeah.
pure intention in that research coming into my home and trying to help me with my, say, a paranormal problem or issue or occurrence or however you want to phrase it, than somebody that, just rang my, credit card for $999 and they haven't even walked in the door yet. You know what I mean? To
Yep.
me, it's you're basically saying to them, what do you have to lose? Let us try and help you and see if we get the answers together. And that, speaks volumes to the character of the people that compose the team, in my opinion.
Yes, that's exactly how we look at it.
That's a good way to look at it. Well, listen, Captain Jax, we're going to go ahead and give this a bit of a wrap here. But before we do that, I want you to take the time and maybe, share with us and let us know about any up and coming maybe projects or, other investigations that you may have in the works, that either you or your team are involved in. Maybe, you independently with your channel, your team, why don't you bring us up to speed with the current events that are going on with Captain Jax, Paranormal Underworld, and East Coast Coalition of Paranormal Investigators?
Okay, well, currently we're right in the middle of reviewing the evidence, everything we caught on video and audio on the digital camera
Now, which investigation was this?
that we just wrapped up on November 17th.
Okay, so a fairly recent investigation then. That's fantastic.
Yes. We are currently, like I said, we're knee deep in looking at the review right now. After we wrap this up, we're trying very hard not to overlap cases because it's very long and very, very tedious work to sit there for hours and hours and hours listening to audio and watching video. And even while you're watching the video, you should be listening to the audio from the video. But where we don't have that, that's kind of a plus. But that means also we have to run more audio too. So it's kind of like a catch-22.
And the sync issues, I imagine, as well, too, that must play a role in that.
Yeah. But as soon as that case gets wrapped up, we have another case pending at my co-founder's place of residence.
Oh, wow. So he himself is experiencing some paranormal activity in his home.
Well, he's been witnessing like his keys being thrown off the coffee table or the kitchen table. He's heard footsteps, seen his cabinets open and close by themselves. He does have two roommates. One of them is a mother and her child. He's 2. I believe he's 2. And right before the investigation on November 17th, he received a phone call as he's on his way to the location of the investigation. And she proceeded to tell him, my co-founder, that her son had just seen a full-bodied apparition walk into a wall that's
Incredible.
as real as you and I are sitting right here right now.
Wow. Opaque, like no transparency, like a true figure, solid, or was there some amount of transparency to this figure?
Completely 100% solid, like he was flesh and blood.
Wow. And how old was this child?
Now, children have a tendency, they can see things well better than we can.
Yeah, I've heard about things like that.
And just like animals, they can see things that we can't. and the cat could be staring into a corner and just sit there and just keep staring. A dog might do the same thing, but a dog would also growl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what are you growling at? There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Maybe there is something there and you just can't see it.
Well, apparently humans see such a small sliver of the full spectrum of light, you know? It literally, like, if we were to scale it, say that's the spectrum of light, maybe we see maybe a thumb's thickness of it, you know what I mean? So, you know, there's a
Yes.
lot that's out there that's, for lack of a better term, invisible to us.
Correct. And that's why I also have a theory that perhaps maybe the spirit realm is in another dimension.
A parallel dimension that runs maybe congruent with ours.
But I'm starting to wonder,
That's an interesting theory.
because there's a lot of investigations that I've been on. There's a lot of claims, and we've caught a lot of evidence.
That would suggest that.
So that would, well, not just suggest that, but if continued investigations and you catching evidence all the time on every single investigation,
So like a
there's something
consistency value there.
there's something clearly going on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Especially if there's such a consistency, almost to the point of reliability, would you say?
Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. That's going to be an interesting investigation to follow up on, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. And you say this other one that you wrapped up, I believe. Did you say, I can't remember if it was on November 7th or 17th? But did
November
you
17th.
17th? Okay. And this one is near completion, you say?
Yep. Yeah. Well,
That's
we're right in the middle of it.
That's awesome. And will that be posted strictly on the East Coast Coalition of Paranormal Investigators YouTube page, or will it be shared with Paranormal Underworld as well?
That would be strictly on East Coast Coalition of Paranormal Investigators.
Can viewers maybe expect to see some maybe behind the scenes footage, the making of possibly on Paranormal Underworld, say footage that is, you know, pertained exclusively and captured exclusively, say, by you?
That's quite possible. I would have to double check that with my co-founder because it's his team too. So
Yes, yeah,
we
yeah.
both have to make that decision together.
That's great. That's great. And what else do you have in the works, say, for your channel now, Paranormal Underworld, here on the YouTube?
We have we just launched a new show. We've just aired episode 2 of Paranormal Talk.
Yes,
It's just strictly
great stuff.
paranormal, and we're gonna keep going with that for a little while and see how things go. And then possibly I'll be launching a new show on top of that one. So
Now, will that
stay
be
tuned.
will that be a live thing as well, or will that be like a pre-recorded and then uploaded for viewers to watch at their convenience?
Well, there's been an idea tossed around that there could be a 2-part collaboration between myself, Paranormal Underworld, and Sergeant Chill.
Woohoo.
That you know, like I said, it would be 2-part show, whether if it would be one show on one channel, one show on the other channel. That's what we're thinking. And that one's going to be a good one.
Yeah, yeah. I could vouch for that, and that's not because I'm going to be in it. Don't tell nobody though. But yeah, I'm going to be in it. So watch it. It'll be awesome. All jokes aside, though, yeah, the first 2 episodes of the Paranormal Roundtable were quite enjoyable. I had participated in both of them, and I found it fascinating. Yesterday's episode, for those of you who missed it, you got to go and watch it. We had a long-time old friend join us. Coke Man joined us on that episode, and that was great. And we had met a new friend, UFO Security Cam, as well, came and on and shared a little bit of his story and events that have happened to him. You know, we couldn't have asked for a better show directly related to the subject of orbs. And 2, you know, that was from Coke Man suggesting that over on the Sergeant Chill channel, and I figured that was the better suited show for Paranormal Underworld. So we threw it over there and went with it. So he was able to catch, you know, his own suggestion, and that goes for the rest of you. You know, if you got suggestions and stuff, send them to us, man. We're gonna check them out. We're gonna appease. You know what I mean? We want to talk about and learn different things, meet different people, see their points of view as well. You know, so don't be shy either at, you know, Captain Jack's channel, Paranormal Underworld, or over here at Sergeant Chill. You know, I look forward to all the work that we do together. You know, I can't speak well enough for it. I really, I'm very pleased with everything and how everything is going. And I thank Captain Jax for, you know, taking the time that he does, and I thank him for taking his time for tonight's interview. And you know, we'll be doing this with more people of the Shill Nation. You know, our our regulars that, you know, come up on talk and share and everything. You know, if they're willing to share their story, want to do it in an interview type setting where they could share something that's happened to them, and they, you know, they want to throw it out there and see, you know, what people think, what you know, get some feedback, what have you. You know, that's going to be coming up. We're going to be continuing the credibility in ufology series. So that's something to look out for, and we'll be pumping out the week in review as often as possible. But listen, Captain Jax, I want to take a moment strictly here to say thank you for everything you've done and everything you continue to do, and taking the time out, you know, and subjecting yourself to this interview and letting people get to know a little bit more about the man behind Paranormal Underworld and East Coast Coalition of Paranormal Investigators. So thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't have it any other way. So listen, before we fall out, why don't you tell them where they can find you? And we're going to go throw into the after hours. I'm going to go ahead and post that link for anybody. If there's anybody sitting in the chats there on the YouTubes, that's the link. If you want to get into the after hours, try and lock in before we close off the live, because it might mess you up. All right. So that being said, let them know, Jax.
You can find my channel, Paranormal Underworld, on YouTube. Paranormal Underworld. You can find East Coast Coalition of Paranormal Investigators on YouTube as well. And you can find us on Facebook, hashtag ECCPI. And you can also find us on the internet, www.eccpi-paranormal.com. And I also want to give a shout out to Vern. He wasn't feeling very well tonight. I hope you feel better, buddy. See you soon.
That's right. Suck it up. Run it out. Get into hot water, man. You'll flush it out. Hey, that being said, I want to thank all of you that joined us tonight for the live chat and stayed with us throughout, you know, getting to learn a little bit more about Captain Jax. I'd like to thank all of you that are watching this in the rerun. Be sure to check out like that corner, that corner, that corner, that corner when those things pop up, because they will be there. That being said, have a good night and fall out.